Want to shop Walmart Black Friday deals first? Walmart Plus members get early access to our hottest deals. Join now and get 50% off a 1-year annual membership. Shop Black Friday deals first with Walmart Plus. See terms at walmartplus.com.
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
Whole Foods Market has Thanksgiving gatherings covered. First things first, reserve your no antibiotics ever fresh whole turkey today, starting at $2.99 a pound. Or go with their organic spiral cut bone-in ham, full of seared-in flavor. For sides, choose Whole Foods Market grab-and-go platters. Go even further and get your whole meal catered. Just order online by November 26th. Get Thanksgiving ready at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply.
Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, a podcast where we deep dive into the writing of your favorite novels.
This season, we are exploring Sarah J. Maas's second installment in the Crescent City series.
This is Jac.
And I'm Amy.
This is part 2 of this week's episode where we're discussing chapters 20 through 24 in A House of Sky and Breath. The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author.
This podcast is a discussion, shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series and extended universe spoilers may be discussed with or without warning.
Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
If you are enjoying the podcast, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. You can find us at patreon.com/Book Talk for Book Talk.
Chapter 22 has Ruhn getting ready to start his spying, or as Flynn likes to say, quote, "Our sweet son Ruhn is all grown up and spying for rebels."
Oh,
it's so sweet.
So sweet. I feel like Ruhn might actually be second-guessing himself in this scene, though. He wants to fall back on his old habits and coping mechanisms. Quote, "Flynn smoked some mirth root that Ruhn desperately needed a hit of." It makes sense that Ruhn's nervous right now, but he feels like he needs access to the things that get him through life in general. Spying has taken him away in some ways from the mirth root, from the alcohol, and he's in this in-between place of, I want that, but I committed to doing this.
Yeah. You can't be under the influence, as far as I know, to do this. To spy.
It's just not a good idea.
Not recommended.
There's a point where Flynn describes himself as, quote, "a self-destructive yet insanely charming idiot." And I think that's all of them in this book.
So true. I mean, the only one I would argue is Hunt, and that's only because I don't find him particularly charming.
That's fair. But he is self-destructive.
An idiot, yeah. Ruhn takes inspiration as he starts channeling. Quote, "He summoned, funneling it through the crystal in his hand, as surely as Bryce had funneled her own powers through the crystal of the gate this spring." Ruhn finds inspiration and power by channeling Bryce. We've seen this happen before. Ask me when, I cannot tell you. But we saw it.
Bryce is an inspiration for Ruhn.
She really is. And I get that.
I love it.
I still haven't changed my nails from red. We get the first interaction between Lydia and Ruhn. And she starts out as fire. And he starts off as starlight. Quote, "But he found only a form of night and stars, galaxy and planets, as if his silhouette had been filled by them." And it's setting us up for the ending where we find out that he looks like Rhys.
Yes, definitely. It's showing us that connection. I also think it speaks to Ruhn's true nature. Where we've talked about the fact that he's a very emo boy.
Yeah.
And I feel like the night sky and the darkness is definitely emulating that deeper, darker part of him. He even thinks, quote, had his mind instinctively shielded him? Or was this what he was, deep below the skin? Was this fire being what she was, deep below her own skin?
A lot of deep thoughts.
A lot of deep thoughts.
A lot of deep thoughts out of nowhere.
But also a breadcrumb.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's also talk about the fact that there are plenty of clues here to the fact that Agent Daybright is Lydia Servos.
Yep.
Ruhn thinks that despite appearing in fire, Agent Daybright, quote, could be a faun or a satyr or a witch or a shifter. I love that the first one's a faun because
I know, right?
She's a deer shifter.
Yep.
Faun equals deer. Witch or shifter.
Her parents.
Her parents are both
Witch
a witch
and shifter.
And shifter. Another quote, her voice was beautiful, like a golden song. It stirred his fey soul, made it perk up. In Earth and Blood, we learned how important sound is to Fae, especially for Ruhn and Bryce. Ruhn has admitted he wouldn't call women back because they didn't sound great during sex.
I forgot about that.
Before now, the only other voice that Ruhn found very musical and beautiful was Hypaxia's. And Lydia happens to be Hypaxia's sister, so it makes sense that their voices have similar qualities.
Yeah. I love it definitely psyched me out when I first read it. I was thinking like, oh my God, it's Hypaxia. Because they definitely set you up to believe that it's Hypaxia.
Yeah. I do want to point out also the golden song. I think in ACOTAR, Nesta and Cassian's mating bond is a golden thread. Golden chains.
Well, in ACOTAR analysis, you did a lot of comparisons of sun, daylight, gold when it comes to mates.
And it makes me think of Taylor Swift and everything being golden.
I was about to say.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of clues there.
Taylor knows.
I
believe it's important that Lydia is the one who gives Ruhn his special agent name. Quote, I'll try harder to impress you next time. You already have Agent Night. Did you just give me a code name? Night and Daybright, night and day. He liked that. It's an identity that's separate from being a prince or being a starborn. It's identity that is given to him, and it's an identity that's separate from his father. And that's probably like the most important thing is that this is like nothing to do with his life, everything to do without his dad.
It is interesting to me that Ruhn is never bothered by the fact that Agent Daybright is fire incarnate because his dad uses fire to abuse him.
Yeah.
I always found that really interesting.
Yeah, that's fair.
I also like your point about this identity and Lydia being the one to give it to him. You know, you could argue that the Night in the Stars is because of his starborn line.
Yep.
But being Night incarnate right now doesn't define his life. And so to be called Night is not choosing his path for him.
Yeah.
Where Prince Starborn chooses his path for him and sets up expectations where Night doesn't.
But he also like has this understanding that that's his mate because he specifically thinks night and day. He likes that. Like he likes that it balances each other out. He likes that they're automatically paired together.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the fact that like we find out that it is given to him by his mate. We discover that later on. It's part of why he latches onto it without him even realizing that's why he latched onto it.
Yeah.
She's too good for him.
She is.
Yeah.
She really is. After initial contact with Day, Ruhn tells Cormac to come over. And I just wanted to point this out because it really bothered me, and there is no analysis here. Quote, Cormac shrugged, his gray t-shirt lightly coated in sweat, presumably from the scorching walk over here.
Why didn't he just
winnow? He's winnowed in front of them before. And maybe he didn't walk, maybe he winnowed, and there was a strain, and that's why he's sweating. But I was just like, Cormac wouldn't walk. Why are you saying he's walking?
Well, they don't know he can winnow.
You're right. They don't. However, at the party scene, shadows appear and he walks through the shadows.
Yeah, I think that is annoying that like they couldn't put that together.
Yeah.
From like the very beginning. Like we couldn't tell where he was coming from, and then he just came from shadows as if he teleported.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't understand why the teleportation thing is a surprise.
I know.
And I don't know why he didn't use it here.
Because we needed sexy, sweaty Cormac. Mac Daddy is back. And Mac Daddy is a feminist icon. And put respect to that name.
Please explain.
I actually wrote that in my notes.
I know.
Put respect to his name. What the hell? So Ruhn asks Cormac why he didn't give him a heads up. Like, hey, Agent Daybright's a woman. Why didn't you tell me? And Cormac says, quote, I thought you might share your father's outdated views that females should not be in the line of danger and balk at putting her at risk. Then Ruhn says, does anything I've ever done indicate I'd feel that way? You're protective of your sister to a fault. Oh my God. Oh my God. Mac Daddy. I'm sad that he's dead. I'm sad that he's a character.
And not a real man.
Yeah. I feel that way about a lot of these guys.
There are a lot of good ones.
There's a lot of, you know what? I'd take Tharion. No, I wouldn't.
No, you would not.
I
would not let you.
Maybe like 22-year-old me would have.
Yeah, I could see that.
I just love that Cormac thinks that way, and other people have to earn their respect to him. Mm-hmm. I do approve of that thoroughly. Ruhn, though, still doesn't think he's doing much or is worth much, you know? Quote, he'd go back to what he'd been doing, to leading the ox and hating his father, yet dreading the day the male died, until the next person who needed him for something came along. He's a very sad boy and views himself as something to be controlled and to be used. And I think that's like more reason why Mac Daddy is so threatening to him, because Cormac knows what he's doing. Like, he's chosen a purpose. Like, Ruhn doesn't want to be prince. In his mind, he's going to be forced to do it anyway. Cormac could easily be prince. I mean, he is a prince. He doesn't want to be, he could probably easily be king, but he's choosing to live a more dangerous and purpose-filled life.
Yeah.
And he's everything that Ruhn is not.
Which is why I think Ruhn chooses to follow the same path. We see Ruhn essentially define what normal looks like for him. Mm-hmm. Hating his father, leading the ox, being used by his father, being used by other people. All of Ruhn's life, he's just been controlled. Mm-hmm. And we can tell that he resents that.
Yeah.
And he's just kind of accepted it only because there's been no other option. And now Cormac has presented a new option that Ruhn never knew was available to him.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately why he chooses to be Agent Knight, and he essentially helps Ophian, but he's not actually controlled by Ophian.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time Ruhn's chosen something for himself.
Yeah.
And he continues to choose it. He continues to engage because he wants to.
I agree. So now we're with Hunt and company, and they are summoned to Celestina's house. I did not realize that was her house. Like, some of these things in the analysis, I'm like, I had no idea that was there.
Something I just skimmed over.
Yeah. And it's meant to show that it's like an opening and welcoming place for her team. Quote, Celestina had tried to ease the harsh modernism that Micah had favored. Plush rugs now softened the white marble floors. Angular statues had been replaced by lush-bodied effigies of Chthona, and vases of fluffy, vibrant flowers graced nearly every table and console they passed. And that's the power of the feminine. That is Celestina. Celestina summons that power. She is another great representation of weaponizing the feminine. Mm-hmm. It also eases into the bias of the reader, if they have one, that she's evil. Because like we automatically assume, typically, like when you meet a character of power that's like overtly feminine, Umbridge in Harry Potter is a good example of that, where women in power who are overtly feminine are sometimes viewed as evil.
Yeah, I never really thought that, consciously.
Yeah, I mean, you'll hear things like, their soft voice, like even Amarantha, like it's kind of girlish.
Yeah.
And they lean into that feminine, and that's always a sign of danger. And it's like an unconscious bias that the readers will have because we've just done that so many times.
Yeah, that's what media tells us.
Yeah, and I personally don't think Celestina is bad. Like, I understand the choices that she made. I forgave her very quickly.
Yeah, I did too. I personally read this whole thing and I was like, we should have known she was queer. She's got bodies of Chthona everywhere. Yeah. I got naked statues on my desk too. She's queer.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I had a different impression of this scene. I didn't see Celestina as evil. The contrast of soft and feminine against the harsh modernism of Micah is supposed to make us, in my mind, believe that Celestina is harmless. She's the exact opposite of Micah. It creates that juxtaposition not only to Micah, but also, like, it's almost surprising that she has power when she uses it.
Yeah.
Like, I know she's an archangel, but when she uses her powers, like, oh,
yeah,
you're powerful.
It's like, you know, trying to remember of like the first time readers of this where it's like Hunt is uneased by this. So we're uneasy by this. Like, we're kind of like, I don't know you. I don't trust you.
Yeah.
And it is meant to be overtly opposite to Micah. Now, is that overtly opposite to Micah because, you know, her power is kind of like, whoa, like, you know, feminine and strong? Or is it meant to be like, at least Micah, you knew he was your enemy, and and now Celestina's like trying to manipulate emotions.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Thank you. Celestina and how she dresses is interesting. And I think what's interesting about it is how much Hunt is into it. Quote, she wore pale purple robes, her curls spiraling down her bare arms like a waterfall of night. She might have been a goddess. So still and lovely was she, might have been Chthona herself, voluptuous and full-bodied, were it not the radiant wings that filled with the light of the sun shining through the windows behind her. And she's wearing purple again, which is meant to be regal or
gay.
Yeah. Which is, you know, like whatever, big fan of both. However, like, once again, Hunt is noticing her full body. And, you know, I'm being jealous for Bryce.
He is oddly attracted to her. And what this tells me is he likes his women full-bodied.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why we think Bryce is full-bodied.
Yep.
And he likes women in power.
Can't blame him. Can't blame him for that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I can look at a woman and be like, yeah, she's attractive. I'm still in love with my partner.
Yeah.
And I hope for Hunt she's attractive. Yeah. I still love Bryce.
I mean, you're allowed to do it once. You see them again and you think about, damn, that's a full body. I've got problems. This is my color code. Color code jealousy.
Are we in a green?
We're in a green, but we're flirting with orange. Celestina. We've already established. She's the ultimate feminine, ultimate power. Quote, Celestina's kindness, her fairness, her softness. Pollux was chafing even worse than Hunt. None of them are into her kindness or her feminine power. Like, everyone's just having a bad time. Yep. Although I bet Naomi?
Yeah.
I bet she's having a good time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think this is one reason why Pollux is so into Lydia and why he's so not into Celestina. You know, Lydia, when you meet her, does not come off kind, and she's not traditionally feminine either.
Yeah.
She's very militaristic. She's a rebel hunter and killer. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't call that very soft. And...
Well, even Baxian says, like, only Pollux is crazy enough to go anywhere near her.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I'm going to say something controversial.
Okay.
Or not controversial.
All right. This is my judge of that.
My perception of how SJM characterizes sexual orientation.
Okay.
I'm not mad about it. You might be mad about it. I don't know. Heterosexual equals pain, violence, maybe some cruelty. Homosexual equals kind, fair, soft.
Well, seeing as how one of us is heterosexual and the other one is homosexual, I feel like this checks out. I am cruel, pain, and violence.
You do like your dark romances.
I love it.
Because if you think about the two homosexual characters in Crescent City, Hypaxia and Celestina, they are both very soft, feminine, kind.
Yeah.
Unlike everybody else.
You know what? Fair point. Well, actually, they're not the only gay characters.
Oh, that's right. Isaiah.
They're also not the only gay characters.
Oh, Deck.
Yeah.
Deck and Marcus. Yeah, that's right. And I would call them kind.
Yeah, no, they are the nice ones.
Yeah.
They are definitely the nice ones. No, you're onto something here. I bet we were to do some research on it. There's probably like some kind of thing in media of like the kind gay character.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like certain tropes that people end up fulfilling.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like that they're not being demonized.
I do too.
I approve of that. However, I personally will be leaning into my cruel, pain, violence era.
Okay. Please do.
So back to Celestina just like flexing her power. Quote, warm summer kissed power filled the room, smothering their own gifts, a feminine, unbreaking sort of magic, the kind that took no shit and would lay down the law if threatened. That was utterly unafraid of Pollux and the sort of male he was. Such a, like, badass woman. However, like, summer-kissed power. Like, I don't know how much more Hunt needs to describe, or SJM really, that this is a feminine character.
Yeah.
This woman is the most feminine, girlish person here. And I'm trying to figure out, like, why that's being shoved down our throat. And I'll figure, I mean, again, I think part of it is a misdirect, because I think we tend to, assume characters like this are evil. But, I'm excited to keep looking into that.
I think part of it is Hunt has a hard time seeing past femininity.
Yeah.
Think about the way he viewed Bryce at the start of Earth and Blood.
True.
He is not his best self in the face of femininity.
He sees a pretty voluptuous woman.
Yes.
He sees a pretty voluptuous woman and he's like, damn, she be feminine. Her power, so feminine.
Yeah. He takes women for granted.
Yeah.
But he doesn't, because he's also willing to follow Shahar and he respects Bryce. He's very complex.
Yes, very complex. Now, to take a slightly different shift on, like, viewing feminine power, I think there's something here to be said about the wave of the conversation in this chapter. You have Celestina really overtly showing her power, right? We've established it's a feminine power. Why is she doing this? Because Pollux tried to rape someone. And that is the main reason that Baxian kicked Pollux's ass, because he went after him, because he's known Pollux for years and he's been trying to stop him from raping.
Yeah.
And it makes sense then that, like, Celestina would use her ultimate feminine power to put him in place. He is the predator. He is the rapist. So I love that this feminine is able to put him in line. However, quote, Pollux embarrassed the city, embarrassed her, and the Asteri had taken notice, and now she would pay. Not what Pollux had tried to do to that female, but for getting caught by the police. The Asteri would take this opportunity to remind her exactly how much control they had over her life, her body. And this happens in books. This happens in real life. They are controlling women through their bodies and forcing childbirth. You can freaking see that in today's society. And there is there's no better way of showing a world that's regressed in ways than showing a world where women don't have a say in what happens to their bodies. And the fact that it is her punishment for a man trying to force himself onto a woman is just like, it hurts so much of, like, this man tried to rape a woman. He got caught. Now we're going to force you to have a baby. Now it's another type of violation. Now I'm in control of your body. And you just can't compare it with, like, the same thing with men. Like, men don't have the same ties to, like, a baby and being forced to have children. And it is a violation that Celestina is being forced to. And not only is she being forced to have a baby, she's being forced to have sex every single time with this person in order to have a baby.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like she's having IVF. She's being forced. Yeah.
And we know she's not straight. We know she likes women. So now you have that other added layer of, like, she doesn't want this, and she super doesn't want this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not great. And I definitely view Celestina and what's happening to Celestina as commentary from SJM, that it doesn't matter how powerful you are. It doesn't matter if you're an archangel as close to the top of the food chain as you can be without being an Asteri. You can be more powerful than the men around you, and yet somehow you're still not immune to being controlled through your body.
If we let men be in control of our body, you can never be in control of your life.
Yeah.
And that's just the facts of it. Fucking men. Burn it all down.
See, if men could be seahorses, we could pass the baby over to them and they could carry it.
No, then suddenly you get men's rights and being like they could do whatever the hell they wanted with their body and all this other thing. Name one fucking thing, that the government controls that on men's body. Name one law that dictates a man's body.
I would lose this game real fast.
Guess what?
None.
I can't think of anything. Anyway, continue. Before I light... I'm not going to light your apartment on fire, don't worry.
Please
light the
don't.
government on fire.
Before the big reveal of how Celestina is going to be punished, though, Hunt is eating up Celestina's desire to smack down Pollux and make an example of Pollux. Quote, Hunt could only watch in something like shock. Hunt's blood roiled, howling. Maybe this would be it. Maybe Pollux would finally get what's coming to him. Despite Hunt's inability to really see Celestina for who she is, Hunt is okay with her being female, being in power, and doing the punishing if it's to an individual who's deserving.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
He's not immediately judging Celestina for punishing Pollux because he was punished by Sandriel.
Yep.
It's not the same. So he's not biased in that way. And I bring this up because I can see how Hunt was motivated by Shahar, that the way he reacts to Celestina's power and putting down the people who cause him pain makes sense that Hunt would want to follow Shahar to put down the angel hierarchy.
Yeah. Pollux's relationship with Lydia is a weird one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think about like how Pollux showed up and he's in a mood because he was separated from Lydia.
Yeah.
And now that he's about to be reunited, quote, Pollux straightened at that, delight in his bruised eyes. And we know that he views her as an object. We know that he's in control of her. We think about Crescent City 3, where, you know, he kind of says something like, I don't care if you're on your period. I'm going to show you like who's in charge here.
Yeah.
Like we know it's not good, right? He's a horrible person. It's just really hard to not imagine him as like this evil, happy puppy.
Yeah.
Like he's like, she's coming? What? Yay! You know, like he's just like really into her too.
Yeah, he is.
You know, not in a healthy way.
Not in a good way. Not
like
at all.
Like a really evil puppy. Like really evil.
Really evil.
Yeah.
When everyone gets up to leave, Celestina asks Hunt to stay behind. And mind you, despite him being excited that Celestina would hurt or punish Pollux, Hunt is still wary of her and his PTSD kicks in. Quote, she was going to rip into him for not controlling Baxian last night, for not being there to stop him from brawling. The punishment was coming. He could sense it.
No, it was not. He has bad senses.
He has bad senses. He is, I think, beginning to trust her. He's seeing a side that he likes of her, but he can't get over his trauma just yet. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder if Celestina being punished by the Asteri, does it make Hunt sympathize with her, or does it make Hunt slower to trust her? I'm not quite sure. I'm a little torn. I think Hunt has a hard time trusting Celestina because she's unable to break the bonds that the Asteri put on her.
Yeah.
And because she's stuck in the same cycle, how could she possibly be on his side or strong? Because she's not even trying to resist. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think Hunt would trust her more if the next thing that I'm about to go into didn't happen.
Okay.
And that is the honest talk that Celestina has with him. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it starts off with her wanting to know his feelings about Bryce's engagement. But it's when she apologizes for not being there and for not purchasing him that I think Hunt stops trusting her.
Yeah.
Because then the idea that someone out there was like looking out for him, wanted to take care of him, it's like, it's so impossible for him to like really grasp that.
Yeah.
But even this next thing that she says, quote, but perhaps I might atone for my failures now. I'd like us to be friends. That's a huge ask. That's a bit manipulative. I would take that with a big grain of salt. Like, it just feels like, hey, I was sorry I wasn't there for your rebellion. By the way, I tried to buy you. By the way, can we be friends?
Yeah.
I think her being controlled by the Asteri, he would immediately be there and understand for her. But all this other added thing, then it's like, I don't know if I trust you.
Yeah, it is I have a hard time deciding if Hunt is like gratified by that fact that someone wanted to rescue him.
Yeah.
Or if he's put off because this is a lot of information he didn't know and how much of it is true. And he can't tell.
Yep.
One thing I will say, while Celestina was talking about Shahar, this is the first time I thought, were they together?
No.
Quote, Shahar was my
Yes.
friend,
Yeah.
my dearest friend. We kept it quiet. The Asteri would not have approved.
Yep.
Totally lovers.
I thought that when I was reading this too. I was like, oh, someone wasn't honest.
Yeah. Which means she didn't support her lover because she didn't want to be outed.
Whether she didn't
Or
want to be
it was just
outed or
self-protection.
self-protection or, I doubt it was jealousy, but like there could be a million things, but just add some messiness to it.
Very messy.
Yeah.
Hunt is still wary, obviously,
Mhm.
both of Celestina and Baxian. He thinks, quote, it could all be a lie, a lovely, clever lie to get him to trust her. If he told her all that was brewing in this city, would she damn them or help them? And that's just a breadcrumb
Yeah.
for both this book and the next.
Yeah.
When Hunt talks to Celestina, he says, quote, Sandriel's old Terrari is poison. I don't know why Baxian is suddenly playing good guy. Listen, Hunt is just making assumptions because of his past experience, and it blinds him to the fact that others are capable of change. Like,
Yeah.
Hunt changed.
Hunt, you so changed.
Why can't other people change?
Seriously, he has such delulu eyes when it comes to like other people changing.
Yeah.
But Hunt has the best point of view when it comes to like all the crap he's been through.
Mhm.
Quote, if I'd gone to you in Nenna, I would have never come here to Lunathian. I never would have met Bryce. And every horror, every nightmare, all of it had been worth it for her. So, he's keeping the right attitude.
Yeah, seeing the silver lining.
Yeah.
My note. By the way, I'm just now noticing that all of Sandriel's Terrari all have nicknames that start with H. Harpy, Hawk, Hind, Hellhound, Hammer.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I just noticed it, though.
That's a good point. Before Hunt takes off into the rain, he notes, quote, the wind whipped at his hair, carrying the fresh scent of the Istros from across the city. Storm clouds gathered on the horizon, and lightning danced in his veins. The storm that's brewing will impact Hunt and Tharion and Bryce, each in their own ways, and each of them will have their own reactions. And for Hunt, lightning dances through his veins, and he's not in a bad mind place. Like, he's kind of walking away feeling like, wow, I'm wise. I mean, he's annoyed that Pollux, isn't getting in trouble, but he's feeling good. I just saw your note.
Or he got laid.
Yeah.
He's having a good time.
He's having a great time.
Sex is back on the table.
Yeah.
Baxian tries really hard to clue Hunt into the fact that he's not a bad guy,
I know.
despite the fact that Hunt is blind. Baxian tells Hunt, quote, new city, new rules. I don't have to pretend anymore. That's
Yeah.
pretty clear.
Hey, I wasn't who I was then.
Right. I was putting on a show because I wanted to survive.
Yeah.
Hunt thinks something had changed. Something big and primal. I mean, yes, it's a breadcrumb
For Danica.
for Danica, but
Oh my God.
Baxian tells Hunt, quote, you tell me your secrets, Athalar, and I'll tell you mine. Hunt couldn't shake the sense that Baxian continued to watch him, as if he'd left something vital hanging in the balance, and it seemed only a matter of time before it returned to bite him in the ass. And we all scream, you're fucking dumb.
You're so
Hunt."
dumb. You're so dumb, Hunt.
He doesn't care. He gets to go home and get laid.
I know. He's really like, I must go home to somehow kick out Ithan so that I can have sex.
Yeah. Oh. We'll be right back. Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like, my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
The sounds of the season can often sound like this.
So, when are we getting some grandkids?
But with Hilton's Season to Stay sale, they could sound a bit more like this. Or this. Stay and save up to 20% off when you book before January 5th at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay. Minimum 2-night stay required. Excludes luxury and all-inclusive properties. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
We're now in chapter 23. We're with Ithan, and he goes to investigate a body with Tharion, and Ithan is having his own little crisis because who in this book is not? Quote,
it wouldn't be interesting.
Right? Quote, he should have worn shorts and sandals instead of the black jeans and boots of the ox. He had no business wearing these clothes anyway. And clothing is an identity, especially when it comes to being a uniform. And he is currently without his identity and he feels like an imposter. And, I get that there's power in clothing. It's also not the most original outfit choice. So get over it. But continue.
Ithan, whether he likes to admit it or not, consciously chose or is in the habit of choosing his ox uniform.
Yeah.
To me, this is telling me subconsciously he wants to feel powerful or he wants to fit in, he wants to belong.
Mm-hmm.
But by putting that clothing on, it's actually doing the opposite.
Yes.
And he didn't understand that it was going to do the opposite for him. He regrets that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just sad because, like everyone else, he's trying to force normal in his life.
Yeah.
And it's just not working. None of them can be normal. Ruhn could be if he wanted to, even though he doesn't like it. No one else gets to have their normal anymore.
Yeah. It's also unfortunate that, it's just a good look for guys. Black jeans and boots. I'm not mad at that. However.
Black cargos that get tucked into their black combat boots with a white shirt that's tight and you see them.
Okay, you got thoughts. Seeing that straight side come out.
So rarely does she come out.
I am going to need SJM to stop making Ithan and Sunball a career, the Sunball career, an answer to everything with his skills.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, Tharion crossed his arms with a pointedness that said, keep it quiet. I have the same instinct you do about this. At least that's what Ithan thought it conveyed. He'd gotten pretty good at assessing others' expressions and tells thanks to his years as a Sunball player. Stop trying to make it a thing. Stop trying to make it like these are these skills and experiences that he played up until college, mind you, not professional.
Mm-hmm.
He was 22? He's 22 now.
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped playing
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So he was 20.
Mm-hmm.
He was 20 when he stopped playing.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that this child learned all these, and that's what is going to make him such a great prime leader. I don't believe it.
Every time there's a Sunball reference, I write ugh in my book. It is overkill.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a lot of showing, not telling.
Yeah.
And it's not enjoyable and it's not convincing.
I think because it's the least convincing thing.
Yeah.
That Ithan has all of these skills because he played Sunball. He played Sunball until the age of 20, and therefore he's this natural captain. He's great at strategy up until the age of 20.
Yeah.
And he didn't go professional. You can't tell me that's like a thing that makes you equipped to handle all of these, like, we're supposed to call it real world situations, but, you know, real to them. No, I know.
I do think what is happening, whether or not SJM is consciously doing this, we hate the comparison to Sunball just as much, if not more than
Ithan
hating every time someone asks him about Sunball.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if she did that on purpose.
I don't know if she did,
but
it's working.
It's working. Me too, Ithan. I hate it too. Similar to Tharion, Ithan is struggling with who he is. Quote, were. Everything in his life was were these days. You were Connor's brother. You were part of a pack. You were in the Ox. You were a Sunball player. You were Bryce's friends. You were normal. You were happy. All right, it's like a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
He's got emotions, understandably.
Mm-hmm.
It's about being a part of something. You know, like he wants to be a part of something. He wants to be part of an identity, and it's like the ownership of others too. You know, like he wants being someone's brother. He wants to be part of a pack. He wants to be Bryce's friend, and he's none of those things. Like there's nothing to claim him and for him to claim.
Mm-hmm.
That's why him and Tharion are besties.
Yeah. I think what I will say about what he's saying is he wants to be owned.
Yes.
And no one owns him anymore. He's not part of a pack where he wasn't the alpha.
Mm-hmm.
He's not, quote unquote, he's not Bryce's friend. He's not Connor's brother.
He wants ownership.
He wants to be owned.
Yeah.
You know, we discussed last week, I think, that for everyone, we're starting to see they want to be normal. They can't be normal.
Yeah.
Ithan has been very, very intentionally removed and kind of divorced from his normal, but also from being owned.
Yeah.
Like, no one has ownership of you. No one wants ownership of you.
Yes.
And it wasn't his choice. I feel like that's deliberate on SJM's part because of what he will become.
Yeah. You know, you said something like Ruhn's the only one who can like walk away or like be normal. Like Ithan can just go and join Sunball, something or other.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, he can truly leave it all behind.
It's true.
Ithan makes it so easy to be annoyed at him, though. Like, it's like all of a sudden I was like, I feel bad for you, and now I don't. Tharion tells him to be careful about Pippa, and Ithan says, quote, Pippa is a human woman. We can take her. My brother took down Philip Briggs. And then Tharion says, something tells me Pippa might be worse than Briggs. Come on, Ithan said, scoffing. First off, human woman. And he's comparing her to Briggs, who is a human man.
Yeah.
And he's saying, and he's implying that Briggs was even a bigger deal than Pippa.
Mm-hmm.
He views the women part to be the weaker part, not she's human.
Right.
It's not even the like, oh, she's human. It's almost like he can value some kind of form of human being an enemy.
Yeah.
Like there's some respect, but because she's a woman,
yep,
that is what makes it even more like can't take it seriously.
Yep.
And if he can't take Pippa, a human woman threat, seriously, could he have ever taken Bryce seriously before all this shit went down?
I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I think he would have been like, he would have told her to stay safe. Let the big guy go do all of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why he's so surprised about who Bryce really is because like Bryce isn't holding back on all these things. Yeah. But it just, you know, he is not a feminist icon.
He is not.
No.
And I do like the fact that Tharion calls out Ithan. Quote, Tharion didn't bother to keep the gravity from his face. I like being alive. I'm not going to risk death because you've got an outsized view of your wolf skills. And it just tells me that Ethan's a little reckless. He doesn't really think.
No.
Maybe he's a little more reckless than Bryce. Maybe.
I think he is.
Saying a lot.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that these two are just two bros because they diffuse the tension between them with humor and humor about sex.
Yes.
Quote, you know what Bryce would do to me if you wound up dead? I'd never get to fondle her underwear again. I appreciate that.
I just love how like Ithan can't get over either of like, what do you have to do with her underwear?
Yeah.
I don't understand this. It's like, it's called a running joke, my man.
Yeah.
It's called sarcasm.
Yeah.
I can't help you with that.
Yeah. Stop taking things literally.
Seriously. And for a character who has some of the funniest one-liners,
yeah,
he's the most serious of them all.
Yeah.
Tharion leaves to meet with the River Queen, and he knows it's bad because the storm. Quote, it had to be bad. It was raining above during the dry summer months. And for Tharion, the storm is a warning. Now we switch over to Bryce's point of view. And Bryce is admiring the storm. It's a relief. Quote, Bryce fanned her face in the summer heat, thanking Ogenis, the bringer of storms, for the rain that was moments away from falling, or from whatever Vanir might be throwing a temper tantrum. And for Bryce, the rain is, like I said, a relief, a break. Small moment, but I want to point it out. Quote, her sweaty thighs sticking together with each step. Not only is it relatable, but it's also confirming her body type.
Yeah.
You know, thick thighs save lives, and they be touching. Something she notes the day after she was questioning her body about Hunt when she was with Hunt.
But it wasn't like a judgment of herself.
No.
It wasn't. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
Of like, my thighs are sweaty and they're rubbing.
I'm a fan of thighs. Like I got thick thighs, but like I love them.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I like the fullness of them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan of like full thighs. I think it's just, you know, I think it's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it took me a long time to really like my thighs. I think that they're very shapely. I think it's very womanly. I think that they look strong.
Yeah.
I like that my girlfriend thinks they look strong, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think because like I have some powerful legs.
Yeah, you do.
I have powerful legs, but then like the insides are a little soft, but I like it because I feel like it's a good balance between
Hard and soft.
the hard and soft. Yeah. There's a little firm jiggle there.
Remember how I think a couple episodes ago I talked about Ophion, or the Lightfall symbol, being a sun with a sword and a gun? Well, in this chapter, we learned that Randall taught Bryce, quote, swords could mean hope, resistance, strength. Guns meant death. They were to be respected, but only as weapons of killing, even in defense. So basically, SJM just spells it out for us right here.
Yeah.
This is what the Ophion symbol is. It means hope and resistance at any cost, even death.
Yep. Despite being older than Bryce's mom, Ruhn wishes that Ember was his stepmom. Quote, Ruhn's relationship with his own mother was strained. Ruhn took care of her these days. He knew his father certainly wouldn't. And going into the theme of wanting a place to belong, wanting to have a family and a home that is his, I think that it just kind of like keeps going on to the fact that he's a lost boy.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so touched when Bryce finally invites him over to have winter solstice with him. It's the sweetest, most pathetic quote. Quote, rain splattered on the pavement, but Ruhn stopped, his eyes filled with such hope and happiness that Bryce's chest hurt. Like, it's so sweet. It's so pathetic and sad. Like, it's not pathetic, but it's like,
no, he's wet kitten number 2.
He's wet. He really is wet kitten number 2. That is so accurate, because it's like he's just so happy for going home with her for the holidays.
Well, I bet he's never had a winter solstice with his family that's been
Absolutely.
good.
Because he said he goes home with Flynn.
Yeah, Flynn or Deck or whichever one. Maybe he had winter solstice with his mom and his mother and father, but I can guarantee it wasn't fun. He finally gets to be a part of the real family.
Yeah.
Right? He loves Ember. He loves Bryce. And he's probably never had winter solstice with them. So that, let me go cry now.
Wet kitten number 2.
Wet kitten number 2. And then Bryce tells Ruhn, quote, I think you don't know how special you are, Ruhn. Like, that's instant tears if a sibling says that to you.
Right? Can you imagine one of your siblings, one of your brothers saying that to you? Which one do you think would cause the most impact? All of them?
Yeah, I mean, they have said some very nice things to me over the years, and it does make me cry a lot.
I mean, I would have hoped so by now. Dear Lord. So Bryce and Ruhn kind of have like an awkward moment of silence, which Bryce points out like, oh, this is awkward. And I love Ruhn because he's like, so Bryce is waiting for him to say something. And so Ruhn's like, why don't you touch the sword? She's like, that's not what I was hoping for. That's not how I wanted to fill the silence.
Can you talk about the weather, please?
Seriously. And she says, quote, I don't want it. She could have sworn the rain and the wind paused, seemed to listen. Even the temperature dropped.
This felt very Akatar to me.
Yes.
Very like the mother listening in.
Yeah. I mean, we know this is like kind of a psych out, but I think it's a double psych out.
Yeah.
Because we know we're like, oh, the Reapers come. And she says, that's why my arms were all tingly. But I've been re-listening to Flame and Shadow, and she is so aware of the sword You know, when she's under the tunnels with Azriel and Nesta, she gets like chills. Her head gets kind of like jumbled. Like she is really drawn to the sword. So I think it's like a double fake.
I agree.
Kind of like what you're saying, Bryce tells Ruhn that he's special and that's why she doesn't want the sword, because the sword, you know, and also like the sword has a knife, so maybe I'll get the knife. But then a few pages before this, going back to that quote you read earlier, quote, swords can mean hope, resistance, strength, guns meant death. I think this is also a fear of hope. You know, what does the sword represent? It represents everything that could be.
Right.
And I don't think Bryce is ready for that yet.
Right. Well, the sword is a symbol of resistance and strength. Like, to take it is accepting her fate.
To fight the Asteri.
To fight the Asteri. Yeah, absolutely. And just, you know, it's a breadcrumb because, she does find the knife.
Yeah. And, you know, like, just going back to that redirect that she did where, you know, the fact that, quote, the hairs on her arms have been raised, but she chalked it up to the dangerous conversation. And it's like, no, it's not that. It's the Reapers. No, it's not that. It's the sword. And either way, baby Ruhn gets Ruhn napped.
Ruhn napped?
Yeah. Our poor wet kitten number 2. So now we're in chapter 24. And while Ruhn is asleep, he meets Agent Daybright. And for the first time, he kind of recognizes her voice. He's like, wait a minute, I know that voice. And then he's like, I know your smell. And she's the whole time, she's like, no, you don't.
I don't
know you. You don't know me. Wake the hell up.
Yeah. She's like, excuse me, you're dying.
Yeah. Open your damn eyes.
Take care of that.
Think of priorities. Like, she's screaming at him, wake up. And he's like, oh my God, do you use this perfume? Your voice sounds like melodies. Yeah, but it's not. The reason why he recognizes her voice is because it's when she uses it in a command. And because he's probably heard her as the Hind on TV and stuff.
Interesting. So this scene I feel like can be read in multiple ways. So it could be if the Hind has ever been on TV, he's probably heard her commanding voice. I think that's a great suggestion. That's not what came to mind first for me. When I first read this, it implied maybe he knows her. It could be because there are similarities between Hypaxia and Lydia.
Yep.
But to me, it's because they're mates.
Okay. Yeah.
But I only thought it this time.
Yeah.
I've never thought that before. So it could be any of those.
Could be a lot of these things. Only SJM will tell us. And I think she'll be like, oh, I forgot I wrote that.
I wanted to point out that Bryce is able to intentionally use her starlight during this sequence of chasing down the Reapers, fighting them to save Ruhn. And it's worth pointing out because we're going to get some training scenes soon where she can struggle with accessing her magic, using her magic. But this is different compared to chapter 1, chapter 2. So worth pointing out.
Yeah. And then the Prince of the Pit, you know, the whole like, I need a worthy opponent. And I'm just like, God, which time is this? Like, are we talking real princes? Or are we talking Asteri? Like, there's a lot of, I get fooled, but that's what she wanted.
It is what she wanted, because we definitely go through this entire book until the big reveal by Rigelus, and we're like, what?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the clues. First of all, Bryce points this out. The Reapers don't serve Hell or its princes. They serve the Underking, and therefore the Asteri. So that's the first important thing to keep in mind. Also, because we saw the scene with Hunt and Apollyon, we know that the Prince of the Pit is capable of reaching out on his own. And similarly, because he just talked to Hunt, why isn't Hunt brought up?
Yeah.
So when Apollyon talks to Hunt, he's like, you and the Starborn girl need to train together.
Yep.
The Reapers are telling Bryce, quote, train harder, train better. He is waiting. They don't mention Hunt. They don't mention the need to train with Hunt because they're both conduits. So there's a disconnect there. I think what's important is that both times Bryce gets the message to train harder, it's from a Prince of Hell who is not there or not in their true form. And so there's no way to really verify the truth, which is what I said before. And I don't think you can succeed without having had the scene with Hunt and Apollyon first.
Yeah.
I also love that during the fight sequence, SJM makes sure we get a visual of Bryce fighting in her neon pink sneakers. Because
it's back. She had them in the first book.
Yes, she did. She did. It's very jarring.
Mm-hmm.
And we see a little bit of the normal in this fantasy setting of her fighting with the Starsword and she's glowing like a star. And then Mac Daddy winnows in.
Mm.
And the first time I read this, in my mind, I thought, wow, SGM loves to recycle her magic. She can't come up with anything new.
I do love, like, later where Bryce was like, you can fucking teleport. Like, that's her first words.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Not, is Ruhn okay?
Yeah, like, what? So Bryce uses the sword for the first time and she kills the Reapers. Quote, nothing had ever felt so right, so easy. Another quote, Bryce peered at the blade she clutched in a white-knuckled grip as if her hand refused to let go. And this is a game-changing moment for Bryce. This is a moment where she gets a taste of the power and, you know, like Ruhn's been saying, the sword is meant for Bryce.
Yeah.
Not him.
Yeah.
Let's get into some breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs. In chapter 20, Tharion, thinking about how the River Queen's daughter supposedly had lost interest in him and moved on, quote, even if the vows between them still bound them together irreparably. And he will do everything to destroy those bonds, and including make some new vows.
Mm-hmm. Also in chapter 20, Tharion thinks he will chase after Sophie and Emile, quote, until his own stupid choices finally called in a debt. I think we see a lot more of that in Flame and Shadow, and I expect we'll see even more later.
Yeah. In chapter 22, Ruhn, quote, clenched the crystal tighter, willing it to lead him where he needed to go, to his mate.
Chapter 22, as Ruhn searches for a mental connection to Agent Daybright, he finds, quote, a female of pure flame. You know, this is where everyone freaks out because Lydia is a descendant of the heir Mala, the Firebringer, aka Aelin Galathinius.
I don't know why I didn't think of that.
I mean, none of us did.
No.
Except for Lily.
Rosie thought of it.
Except for Rosie.
Rosie predicted that.
Yeah.
In chapter 23, when knife and sword are reunited, so shall our people be. And we don't realize how this is going to have multiple meanings in Flame and Shadow.
Yeah.
That's when a prophecy is good.
Yep.
When it subverts your expectations multiple times.
Also in chapter 23, quote, we were immigrants to Midgard. What became of our home world, our home gods? Do they still pay attention to us, remember us? Bryce will find the home world. I bet if we look for clues, we'll find that the mother is the one that takes her there.
Yeah, I think because this happens, like they're talking about gods.
Mm-hmm.
That's when she could have sworn the rain stopped and all these things. I feel like we're going to see more godly presences.
Well, there was a lot of references to gods if you think about the first early chapters.
Yeah, true.
Bryce talks about it where it's like she's very much in her mind of like, where are the gods? What happens to us after we die? And even in the third book, she talks about it with Azriel and Nesta. And I'm like, that still hasn't been resolved for me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm curious.
In chapter 24, when Bryce tells the Reapers to put Ruhn down, they tell her, and have you used the star on us? We think not. We think that they're referring to the star on her chest, but they're actually referring to the Starsword, which we learn in Flame and Shadow has part of a star in it.
Yeah.
And it's hinting it here.
Woo!
And later, a similar breadcrumb, quote, starlight erupted from the black blade.
Finally, in chapter 24, the Starsword is, quote, the blade that had slain that which was unkillable. Very important for what Bryce is able to do with the Starsword in Flame and Shadow. And I suspect important for Nesta in the next Akatar book. Koshi, anyone? The death god? Yeah.
He's not supposed to be killable.
No.
So, Jack.
Yeah, I think you have a question for me.
I do. Why do our heroes struggle to see the truth beneath the surface of the situations surrounding them?
I think we need to ask ourselves, why did you start this episode by saying we should ask a harder question?
I did.
You look so pleased with yourself. You look so happy. Okay. Why do our heroes struggle to see the truth beneath the surface of the situation surrounding them? You know, they're just so in their own heads about everything. And I think we go from 0 to 60 pretty quickly with these guys, right? We go from it's just a fun summertime. We're just partying, living it up, to now everyone's dealing with their crises.
Mm-hmm.
However, the crises were always there. It never left. So I think that part of struggling with the truth about it is the fact that they never had normal.
Yeah.
And I think all of them are busy being sad to have normal leave, right? Bryce is upset that she's the starborn princess. I mean, Hunt's having a good time, but like, Ithan is struggling that he's not part of the auxiliary and everything. Like, people are struggling with their new normal, but suck it up, Buttercup. That's where I'm at with them.
I agree that normal definitely has something to do with it. I think that their experience has informed them that taking action, taking a leap of faith, doing the hard things isn't always rewarding.
Yeah.
And they would rather be normal. They feel like they've earned normal. They've been told by the Asteri to be normal. And fate refuses to allow them to do that.
Yeah.
And their resistance to that, their resistance to accepting their destinies, putting up a resistance against the Asteri, means they resist everything else around them. Hunt resists the idea that Baxian could be good and have changed.
Yeah.
Hunt resists the idea that Celestina might actually want to be his friend. Bryce resists the fact that maybe people are lying to her to manipulate her.
Yeah.
Because she was told, wait, but I got told to do nothing.
Yeah. Asteri really need to have figured out what they wanted.
Yeah. Mixed signals, man.
Yeah. I think they were like, you listen to us?
You're not supposed to listen to us. You're supposed to resist.
Yeah. I mean, I think when this book kind of like will be a big shift is when everyone accepts what their new fate is. Yeah. And I think Bryce is one of the first ones to get on board with this. And, we'll see that with her gripping the Starsword. Yeah. She still was resistant of the Starsword. Yeah. And, eventually it turns from, oh, we need to save Emile to, we need to save this world.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think that everyone will resist until they have no other choice.
Yeah.
Bryce resisted the Starsword until she had no other choice.
Yep. So why do the heroes struggle to see the truth? Because they're not being forced to yet.
Because they still have options.
They still have options. But just watch as SJM takes them away.
Yeah, one by one.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy. We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. Next week, we'll be exploring chapter 25 through 29 of A House of Sky and Breath.
We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on a Patreon exclusive episode.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo. You can also follow us on TikTok or Instagram at the handle booktalkforbooktalk. Bye!
We didn't write a question. I didn't know what question to write. Otherwise, everything's written.
I have a theme.
Yes.
I
wrote...
What was the theme? Home and belongings, true motivations. We could change one of the things to, what do you think everyone's true motivation is?
I feel like we've been picking easy questions.
You want to make it hard?
I feel like we've had really good discussions because of the questions.
All right. That's fine. Let's do this then. I do notice, like, I do try to be better about projecting, and I was trying really hard, and I can tell, and I have a little leeway, and I can go a little bit more.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, see that?
Yep.
That girl's got leeway.
Yeah, she does. It's when we laugh really loud.
Yeah, but it's endearing.
All right. Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because you know I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.